animal. Germans aren't tall and Germans aren't blue-eyed. Germans are dark, short people with dark hair. The only reason, here's a Norwegian dig, the only reason we're blonde is because those Vikings came down, and what did those Vikings do? They pillaged, they plundered, and they raped. And now there's blonde Germans. I try to make fun of it.
Well, no, the only reason I know that is when you think about that description,
yes.
I fit every single one of those descriptions.
You were one of those Norwegians.
So, I would have been in one of those, if based on that, I probably would have been promoted or whatever immediately to leadership just based on my appearance. And it had nothing to do with anything else, but which also kind of would have been a double-edged sword, because if I don't follow along even more, then I'm probably persecuted even worse. But chances are I probably would have been going higher just based on hair color, eyes, and how tall I am.
It was a bad time, boys and girls, and a lot of people say to me, Mr. Etter, why are you so obnoxious about this? Why are you so loud? Because it really affected my life. Like my buddy said to me in Germany 5 years ago, we were in a couple of beers, and he says, you know, Pete, it's a good thing we lost the war. Dieter. And I said to Dieter, what do you mean it's a good thing we lost? I'm an American. He said, no, seriously. He said, if we have lost the war, he says, your family wouldn't have gone to America, and we'd be sitting in Russia right now in some watchtower with some machine guns watching Russian peasants pick potatoes. I said, wow. Scary. Yeah?
All right, to the end of the war. So the war ended in 1945, and the Allied forces, the U.S., UK, and USSR, and others took over Berlin. All right, so East and West Germany, we kind of talked about this already. So after World War II, Germany was divided into two countries, East Germany and West Germany. And what do we already know about West Germany? It wasn't the Berlin Wall wasn't between them. The Berlin Wall happened to be where? Around. Yes. Oh, sorry. My food is up. Where do you need to go here?
Yeah.
All right, my bad. I got a little excited.
Well, that's a Norwegian Viking.
This is, but see, I know I teach science. I love history as well. And so having Mr. Etter in here to actually kind of talk about a lot of these things that have interested me all the way through. You guys are, and I say this from an actual person, you guys are very lucky to actually have Mr. Etter still willing to come in and talk about these different things.
But
we didn't get first-hand experience of these different things. We had books and whatever you read them. But when you actually see the passion and the actual amount behind what he's gone through.
You got to remember, why am I so pro-American? I'm obviously very pro-American because the American soldiers, when they came to our town, saved our lives. They were sitting around eating their K rations, and they'd see us sitting behind them, and they'd throw it over their shoulders to make sure we got it. And they gave us candy bars and Spam. Spam! Spam! I love Spam.
So East and West Germany. After World War II, Germany was divided into two countries, East Germany and West Germany. No, I was just that's how to go over there. No, we're getting a good dialogue going. Alright, and then finally we know that a wall was built between separated two countries.
So that's the Berlin Wall in that picture. Can you guys see it?
No.
It's the one that, you know, according to David Hasselhoff, he's the reason that they tore down the...
What?
1989.
At some point, Google search David Hasselhoff and Berlin Wall. He claims that he's the reason why it came down.
Cool.
Who is he?
They love it.
From Maywatch.
And Chuck Norris.
I'm serious. I'm dead serious though. If you Google search that, he will claim that he's the reason behind that.
That's cool.
So okay, if you know who David Hasselhoff is, whatever, he actually has a really big singing career over in Germany, or had one.
Yeah.
So he was very, very famous over there. Not so much over here. He's kind of a joke over here. And I think that's what it is, not a joke, but he's kind of a joke over here. Alright, so East and West Germany. West Germany became a democracy, which is also why people wanted to get to West Germany, right? So you had a chance to actually have a say in different things. And then they had pretty decent living conditions. And it happened to be one of the richest countries in Europe. So what do we think happened in East Germany? became a communist country. Had very bad living conditions. And then one of the poorest countries in Europe.
So in geography today, people who have had geography, we talked about how West Germany helped form the European Union. Does it make sense now why East Germany did not? They didn't have the resources or the government in place to join to create that union that West Germany was able to.
Oh, sir. I have a question. When did Germany actually become a
A
full United country?
fully united country after the Berlin Wall came down in 1990. You got it?
1998.
In 89.
I was
89, sorry.
89, okay, the wall came down in 89. We went over in 1990, that's right.
Alright, so, the Cold War. Have you guys had a chance to talk about the Cold War?
No. Oh yeah, I know about it.
What is a Cold War? Bryce.
Well, ours wasn't like really that much of a war. It was kind of just threatening each other back and forth.
So it's not an actual fighting war, right?
Yeah.
It's more done kind of through intimidation. So we're going to do this, we're going to do this. So we're going to ramp up nuclear testing, so now all of a sudden in the United States you need to do, bomb shelters and those different types of things. You're kind of just bluffing. You want to fight, but you're not really willing to take that next step and actually fight. So, splitting Germany began a 40-year conflict between the United States and the USSR, which is kind of funny. Think back. Who worked together for World War II?
Us and Russia.
Right? The funny thing about a lot of these different wars is that during wars, people become friends. And they fight together. And then it's like, they end, and then it's like, well, okay, we did that. Now we think this is how it should be done. We think this is how it should be done. So what are we going to do? Now we're going to fight amongst ourselves. Think about this. And here's a good analogy. Right? The United States originally was a territory of whom? Great Britain, right?
Great Britain.
So what do? We did the Revolutionary War, right? We fought as an entire country against Great Britain, right? Then, a couple of years later, we decided, and when I say a couple of years later, I mean a couple decades. Well, the North people think this is what should happen. The South people think this is what should happen. So what did we have? Civil War. So our country fought together to get rid of somebody, and then they're like, we have difference of opinion, so what are we going to do? We're going to fight. That happens all the time. So in 1989, the Berlin Wall was knocked down and the Cold War was ended. And, Mr. Etter, living through the Cold War, and there's a ton of things that go into the Cold War. We can talk about Cuba, we can talk about the missile crisis, we can talk about all these different things that I'm sure at some point you guys will have access to.
Thank you.
It was a pretty tense time, would you agree? Because instead of just having hand-to-hand combat, hold on, let me finish. Instead of having hand-to-hand combat where you had to be literally standing within the realm of somebody, now we had the capability of these attacks from across countries, from Cuba having these missiles launched to actually invade the United States or Russia. That was big fear because now technology got so much bigger. We talked about the atom bomb, all of these different things.
Yeah.
Scary world. Honestly, big round of applause for Mr. Etter.